Hello, hello. Welcome back. How are you all doing? I hope well. I hope full of energy and excited about what's to come here. Today I have an amazing guest with me, and I know I always have amazing guests, but here we are. If you are a little bit of a nerd like me, who's interested in crimes and understanding who might have had the motive or how people show up in their body language and their tone of voice and their nonverbal communication overall to figure out who's done it, who's the culprit. And this might be one for you today. With me, I have this amazing powerhouse of a woman. That's the best way to describe her, Lena Sisco. And she's just published, last year she published the 13 power moves of dark psychology that you probably, because of my weird background here, won't see now. But I can highly recommend this book. I have read it myself and I'm just fascinated by it. And as I said, I'm a bit of a nerd in this space as well, because it isn't just applicable to what I just said, crime series, right? To the police force, detectives, or as we're going to talk about here today, the military. It is so applicable to any situation in life, any relationship. And that's what this conversation today is really about. And here's my first question for you to think about as you are getting into the headspace of this conversation. Have you ever walked away from a conversation with someone at work, in your personal life, wherever, and you might have felt small, confused perhaps, or like you just lost a fight you didn't even realize you were in? It was odd. If so, then this conversation is 100% for you. Today, as I mentioned, I spoke to Lena, and she is a former military interrogator, naval intelligence officer, and now an expert in truth detection, human behavior, and strategic communication. Lena served at Guantanamo Bay during the global war on terror, and these days she trains law enforcement, government agencies, and corporate teams all over the world in body language, elicitation, deception detection, and leadership overall. And what I love most about this conversation is that Lena doesn't just talk about these skills like they are only useful in high-stakes government briefings. I have the MI6 right in front of me right now. No, it isn't about that. She brings them right back to where most of us live. The day-to-day conversations that shape our relationships, our careers, and our confidence in ourselves. And in this episode, Lena breaks down what manipulation really looks like, how to spot it. We talk about the difference between someone who's just arrogant or lacks empathy and someone who's using patterns of narcissistic behavior to dominate, destabilize, or even control others. We also explore how to use your own emotional control, not to shut feelings down, but to own your space and protect your peace, even in the toughest of conversations that you may encounter. Lena shares simple techniques that anyone can use to stay grounded, redirect blame, and stop giving away power in moments that truly matter. She also shares what led her to write her book, The 13 Power Moves of Dark Psychology, a title that might sound intimidating, but at its core, it's about helping people feel safe, feel prepared, and confident about how they show up. So whether you are leading a team, you're navigating a difficult boss perhaps, dealing with a partner who constantly flips the script, or just want to feel more in control when the pressure is truly on, you'll get something from this conversation for sure. And before we begin, I leave you with this question. What might change if you stop trying to win people over and start to trusting yourself to lead the conversation instead? Well, let's dive in, shall we? Enjoy today's conversation. Lena, I'm so delighted to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, even at this early hour. I'm excited to be here.
The early hour for you is just past 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yes. Yeah, it is early, but it's okay.
Would you call yourself an early bird?
No, I will not. I will be very honest with you. I'm a late bird. And I thought being in the military would break that habit.
Yeah.
The habit it'll always stay with me.
I think that was this bias, that I thought she was in the military. So therefore, she's an early bird, that she's used to that. All good.
Yeah, it was a struggle, but I did it, and I did it happily. But if I had my chance, I'm sleeping in.
Amen. I am with you. I'm getting to the stage where I'm noticing I can't sleep in anymore. It doesn't quite work. I want it so badly, but my body says no. Done.
I'm waiting for that. And even my husband, and I'm at an age where I should be there. All my friends are there. And I'm like, no, babe, I'm still sleeping in. I can't break it.
Enjoy it.
I guess I will until the time comes I don't.
I loved a few moments ago when your immediate answer was no. Are you an early bird? No. And when I researched you and I read about you before our last call, which is a while ago already.
Yeah.
I read an interview with you, and it was all about how do you detect when people are not telling the truth, when they are lying. And you gave one example where you said if somebody says a clear no pretty immediately, instead of let me be honest, or if I'm really honest, blah blah, and tapping around the topic, is a good sign they are telling you the truth. They just say it as it is. So that made me laugh right away. And I can't wait to hear some more top tips, how we detect as to whether people are truthful and you can deepen and build distrust with them, or as to whether, you may have to dig a little bit deeper.
Absolutely.
But first of all, let me say congratulations to the launch of your latest book. The title just makes me so curious, right? The 13 Power Moves of Dark Psychology. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was interesting because a lot of people say, hey, it's, a little off the beaten path of your other books. I was asked to write this book, so I didn't come up with it on my own. And when the publishing company approached me, I thought, wow, this is really interesting. It is in line with what I do with psychology and human behavior. And I want to deviate from the detecting deception and all that, even though it's in there. But I really want to get more into that psychology. So we interviewed, they loved me. They said, yeah, we want you to write this book. And as I went through it, I thought, wow, there is so much that relates both to people in my life, in the professional world, personal world. And I found out I was really writing it for them. So it was a journey for me, something I loved. When they came to me with the title, I said, no, you can't call it that. And they said, no, we are. Because when you write books, you're kind of at the hands and the mercy of the publishers and your editors. And I said, well, think about it. I don't want people thinking I'm writing a book about how dark psychology is good and we need to use it as a power move. I'm like, no, this is exact opposite. I want people to be aware of what it is, how to spot these indicators in people and these traits so they can protect themselves. And they said, no, that's what it's about. And I still scratch my head because I'm like, I don't know. To me, it just sounds like it's kind of empowering dark psychology, but people love the title. So I'm super thankful. And I should have just given credit to my editors and my publishers because they really did know what they were doing.
So let's trust publishers is what you are saying here, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the publisher's goal in the moment? Because you said you didn't come up with it, right? So when they approached you, what context did they offer?
Yeah. So, and it was interesting because just like when you asked me if I'm an early bird and I said no, I was very blunt and honest with them as well. Because I just have a huge moral compass with whatever I do in life. It's always going to be with integrity. And if it even skirts that gray line, I'm not getting near it. So when they talked to me, they said, hey, we want you to write a book about dark psychology. And I said, whoa, let's be very clear on one thing. I am never going to promote it. And I'm going to write this book as to help people identify all these traits. And they said, no, that's what we really want. But when they first came to me, the verbiage around what they were saying made me think, what is this book really about? Because dark psychology is a buzzword right now and it's a hot topic. And I think a lot of people have this misconception about it that, oh, if you use these magic, powerful traits, you can get anything you want. But that is not what it is. It's very dangerous and it can hurt people. It can cause a lot of harm. And so when I was talking with them, I said, that's the angle I want to take with this book, because it is a dangerous, dangerous game. And they were totally on board. They said, yes, we love your idea. And I said, I also want to make this book in two parts. Number one is all about how to identify these traits and how to read people and what to do. But part number two is, what do you do? How do you have a relationship with someone that is either, maybe have psychopathy or narcissism or, Machiavellism doesn't really show up a lot in relationships. I'll talk about that later. But what do you do if you feel that you are dating or married to or working for a narcissist? Mm-hmm. And so part two was all about the tactics to use to protect yourself. And this is protection on a mental level, emotional level, and physical level. And they said, yeah, absolutely want you to provide techniques to help people to either control that conversation with someone, to not fall into a trap with them. Mm-hmm. And so it ended up being just the perfect book. I didn't even like the color scheme. And they said, no, trust us, Lena. It's good. And I get so much feedback like, wow, Lena, you picked a great color scheme. I'm like, oh, well, it wasn't me, but I like it. I like it now.
Well, you see me look up because that's why I have your book basically presented. And I love the colors. They draw so much attention. There's a sense of urgency and light to some extent in it as well. And I think in our pre-chat, I said to you the following, shows what a weirdo I am. I think you are too, though. I love reading books around psychopaths and sociopaths, and so serial killers fall into that spectrum. And those books are often black with white writing, so really, really drawing your attention. And that's what happens. I immediately look at them and I'm like, all right, need to get it. There's some sense of urgency here, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's that cover, right? You don't judge a book by a cover, but we do.
Yeah.
And we'll never stop. So when they came to me, I was like, do you really think like the yellow and the red, it kind of reminds me of a fast food joint? They're like, no, it's going to work. I'm like, okay, I trust you. I'm like, but are you really sure? I must have come back to them like 7 times. And they're like, are you really sure? And they're like, yes, Lena, we are sure. I'm like, okay.
We could go into a much deeper analysis of the colors here, but let's pause that for now. For people who do not know what dark psychology is, what is it? If you were to summarize it, how would you do that?
They are antisocial personality traits that are both nature and nurture in a person. So they are from our DNA. Put a person that has that genetic predisposition and you put them in an unpleasant negative environment, such as growing up in a broken household, being bullied at school, all of that, those traits will bubble up to the surface and they will manifest even in childhood, but they will certainly manifest as they get older in teenage years and in adults. And you will see it in the people that you live with, that you work with. And so really that's what it is. I write about something called the dark triad. There's a tetrad now. The triad consists of narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. And now they've added sadism too. So when I was writing the book, I thought, well, I don't really think sadism is something, that needs to be in here anyway, because this is really, I think narcissism is the main one that we're going to run into, because psychopaths are really rare. They make up the less than 1% of the population. Narcissists, true narcissists, so somebody that has been diagnosed with NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder, makes up less than 2%. So although they're rare, this day and age, we are seeing a rise in narcissistic traits in people because of social media. Mm-hmm. And so even though they may not have that genetic predisposition for narcissistic personality disorder, we are seeing this because with social media, especially Instagram, the TikTok and all of that, it's this cult of comparison and cult of more. Mm-hmm. And if I live in a cult and comparison where I'm looking at all of these, whatever models and beautiful houses and people doing this and the makeup artists and the look how great my life is. Well, now I'm striving to be that. And if I have to lie to get it, if maybe I have to cheat to get it, if maybe I have to use AI to doctor up my pictures to think everybody, that I look like this to get it, those are narcissistic traits that are starting to form. And that's by nurture. So not necessarily that someone has a personality disorder, but they are traits that will bubble up. So I really thought, narcissism is the one thing that we have to pay attention to and be able to identify it.
Yeah. And I also think it becomes more prominent because it's also visible in public figures.
Yes.
Right?
That's the funny thing. So believe it or not, we are actually drawn to psychopaths and narcissists and there's a lot of leaders, government leaders, officials who are psychopaths.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it because they're charismatic, they're confident, they're risk takers. A lot of them show up in men, but there's women too. Mm-hmm. And when you are a man or a woman looking at this figure who is out there in front of everybody, taking a risk, doing whatever, they're bold, they're confident. We look at this person and say, I want to be like that. Mm-hmm. But deep down, we don't understand that they're highly, highly manipulative and will lie, cheat, steal, and hurt people to get whatever they want. And if we don't see that and we start to admire these people who have these really hurtful, negative traits, that can be a real dangerous position.
It can be a real dangerous position. And I was just going into my own head because I was wondering how to educate. Right? Yeah. Your book is one tool to educate, your workshops that you're offering, your talks. And not everybody seeks this education, wants to know, wants to be challenged. So I wonder what can be done on a broader basis to deepen that understanding.
Yeah, it's, I'll give a great example. It's more of a personal example versus a professional. And it's not happening with me personally, although I have a lot of examples. It's for my neighbor. And this is what happens. So her daughter is in a relationship. She's finally getting divorced after 10 years of married to a very narcissistic person. So I'll give you a rundown. This gentleman was stabbed years ago. He has PTSD from the stabbing and is now manifested in ways that he is super controlling with her daughter, his wife, abusive physically, mentally, and the relationship. She lives in a state of fear every day. So her cortisol, her immune system is shot. So because it's cyclic. So what he'll do is whenever he starts to trip from the PTSD, the neural pathways created in his head from that traumatic event years ago, of which he never sought help or therapy for, he will take it out on my neighbor's daughter, abuse her. Then he will be, I'm sorry, love bomb her, then institute the guilt trip. And then, because he will say, it's from my stabbing, you know what I went through, blah, blah, blah. You've been here for me. You're the only one I trust, etc. And load it on her. Now she feels guilty for leaving him. And then 2 months later, the same thing happens. And then 3 weeks later, the same thing happens. So this is a cycle. And she has never in 10 years had the courage, because of that fear of what he'll do and what will happen, to divorce him. And then finally, just these 2 past weeks, and I've given my books. I'm like, please read this. You need help and you need to save yourself. You have to get out of this relationship. You will never change him. And so now she has escaped pretty much because he was so controlling, and that's typical narcissistic behavior. They want to control everything in your life because they need that attention. They need you to need them. She's finally living with my neighbor. We're in a very secure, highly secure gated community. He has no access. And we're working with law enforcement, domestic violence, people, like all of this stuff. And they have a great attorney. She's getting divorced and hopefully she will be free. But why people need to understand and identify this is because they will doubt themselves all the time and say, oh no, he's not a narcissist. He went through something traumatic and he needs me. He's just acting out. No. That is narcissistic personality disorder. And it's never going to change. And that's the thing. When I have talks, I make sure to tell people, You cannot change a personality disorder. That's in your traits. A narcissist may be able to make micro changes. Like with him, he realized when he abuses her, he does something wrong, and then he apologizes. But the behavior will never go away. The behavior is a neural pathway in his head that he can't stop unless with professional help, you can actually change your brain's chemistry 100%. But he hasn't done that. And so that behavior will never change. And she's stuck with him in this abusive cycle. And it's really sad. And that's why it's just critical for people to understand what to look for.
And it's great that she got out of it.
Yeah.
But she hasn't at the same time. So what am I trying to say? Usually, I say usually because every situation is different and every individual is different. But my assumption here is that while she has removed herself physically from him, the experience is still inside of her. Those years of living with him, of enduring the situation. I cannot imagine that you work through this from one day to another. So that baggage is with you, and the mental strain that still has to be overcome. I don't know if that's the right word. Work through will take time. She is now conditioned to live in fight and flight every single day. Yeah.
Which, with the cortisol, that is a huge problem. That's going to take a lot of stress on your health and well-being. Living in that condition, she has now created unknowingly neural pathways in her head for triggers and to be stressed all of the time. And so now she's going to have to work to better her brain and change that chemistry, to be healthier, to be happier, to be positive. It can be done, absolutely can be done, but it takes a lot of work. And here's the other thing. If you don't really feel that anything is wrong or that this is just the norm of your relationship. And this goes for professional relationships too. I have amazing stories from my friends with that, and even a personal one. If you don't realize that this is not acceptable, this behavior will harm you at some point. And you feel, well, it's just them. It's just their personality. If I can just deal with it, everything will be fine. No, we can't. Because it really affects us at this very deep level in our brain.
So based on your observations, your insights, your knowledge, what are the risks of staying in there, appreciating? It's not easy to step out of it, but let's call it out.
Yeah. Listen, the risk number one are all on ourselves. We're going to start doubting ourselves, not only with this relationship. And again, this could be professional or personal, but if we doubt ourselves in how we are reading this person, whether or not we think they're truly a narcissist, even maybe a psychopath, if we keep doubting ourselves, that doubt is going to flow over into other parts of our lives. Maybe now I doubt my confidence of doing my job. Maybe now I doubt my integrity, my credibility, whether or not I can go, launch a new business, write a book, or any other endeavor. So that doubt will just keep breeding in our lives and keep showing up. We're going to have the negative neural pathways. So we're going to have stress continually in our life, and our quality of life will fail. It's science. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. That's what will happen. I had a dear friend of mine. Oh my gosh. She divorced a long time ago, probably 15 years ago. And she was married to a narcissist who was a lawyer, made tons of money. His parents are millionaires. When they were going through the divorce, he quit his job just so it looked like he had no income, and made her, who made a third of what he did, pay her alimony and child support. Pay him, rather. Yeah. And this is what the courts decided.
Oh, wow.
I mean, his abusive behavior is just, and I look at her now, she is thriving. She's gorgeous. She is a weapons expert in trained special forces. Like she's super cool. Love her to death. Beautiful. She's engaged. She has a great relationship. But during the time I met her, when this was all coming up, he would never leave her alone. They have one child together, and he would torment her and show up and leave her love notes. And I still want you. He never, ever found another woman to have a relationship with, because a narcissist wants control. Nobody can have my woman. Nobody can have what I want. It's mine and I will control it. And to this day, he still tries to. It's just insane. You're like, how can a person act this way? And so it affected her body, her physical state, her mental state. She was so sick that they thought she was dying of leukemia. Unbelievable. And when she finally went and sought therapy, and she went everywhere, she went to naturopaths, all this stuff, they finally uncovered the root cause of her problem. And she looked at me, and I wish I could say it, so I'm going to make up something, because if the person that I'm talking about ever were to hear this, he would just go ballistic. So she looked at me, she goes, Lena, it was over crackers. And I said, what? And there was an incident around crackers where she was in such fear of making a decision about eating crackers that she just went into this shock because of his behavior and what he would do. Like, it is just... And so from then she started unpacking all of this junk, all of these neural pathways in her head. And now, anyway, like I say, she has totally risen. She is thriving and she's amazing, but it took years of work.
Yeah. I would live in honesty and fear. If I knew there's somebody who's so controlling and who will not accept that I might be in a new relationship, kind of, taking control of my life again, I wouldn't feel safe wherever I went.
No, she had a panic room.
Goodness
I knew
me.
about, yeah. And at the time I lived right next to her years ago. And I said, listen, she put me on speed dial if anything were to happen. That's fear. And man, that will take a toll on you.
So many questions about narcissistic personality disorder. How have you seen it in the corporate system? On organizations, to be more generic.
Yes. I will tell you what happened to me years ago. And I just shared this story in a masterclass this week. I worked for a narcissistic boss. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't even know what narcissism was. I didn't care because I was tough. This is right after the military. I could conquer the world, and any difficult person I could handle. I mean, I worked with terrorists, right? So I had a boss who, the first time I met him, was in a big meeting, and I'm talking to all the C-suite people. And I was just kind of sitting off to the side, getting ready to meet him for the first time. And something triggered him. He took his laptop, he threw it across the room, knocked over his chair, and walked out. And I was like, oh, well, that's behavior that is not ethical or moral or should be tolerated. And I have to work for this guy. So I thought, okay, Lena, always be on your guard around him. Long story short, he created this, I don't know what happened. He created a lie. Someone told him something, and he came to me one day and he berated me up and down in an email. I'm talking, he dropped the F-bomb 1,000,000 times, swearing, berating me, degrading me, you name it. And I had no idea what he was talking about. I thought it was a joke because what he said, I apparently did. I was like, what? And so I said, Joe, what are you talking about? And I was kind of upbeat, happy. I'm like, what are you going on? I'm like, do you want me to do statement analysis on this? And he replied back, he's like, you are no longer allowed to talk to me or something. And I was like, oh, this is real. So I said, hey, I don't know what you're talking about here. I don't know what is going on. Come talk to me face to face. We have a great relationship. Let's hash this out. And I am one, if I will hold you accountable for all your behaviors, everything. And we're going to talk face to face. I'll fly to you. You fly. I don't care, but I will hold you accountable. So he refused at one point. So I took the emails and I said, all right, because you are not willing to work this out, I have to jump chain of command. And I don't usually do that. I like to solve problems at the lowest level. So I went up to our VP, who I adored. What a fabulous leader he was. And I said, hey, this is going on. I'm requesting a face-to-face because I'm literally in the dark right now. And I also don't deserve this behavior. And I'm pretty certain it violates rules and ethics of human resources policies. So waiting for guidance. We all come together. We have a great meeting. He even hugs me. He's like, I'm sorry, Lena. I didn't know what happened, blah, blah, blah. We leave. And I'm like, are we good? Because I don't need to bring up the past. I'm not going to defend myself ever, because you never want to do that with a narcissist. They're just going to take advantage of that. And that's exactly what they want you to do. So I said, we're good. Let's move forward. Let's whatever. The past is the past. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm not going to defend myself. So we move forward. A week goes by. And again, he blows up for something I never did. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to put a stop to this. And I got fired. And I thought, well, hold up a minute. I am the one getting performance reviews that are 5-star and above, constantly awards, this, that, and the other. This guy, you have already seen behavior when I first started 2 years ago about him throwing laptops across the room and almost hurting somebody, pushing chairs, erupting. You even told me that he went off his medication. You've seen the emails. You've seen how he communicates to me, and I'm getting fired. And I lived in a year. The happy part of the story is I actually got rehired into another team that pole vaulted my career. Like, if I look back now, I'm kind of thankful that it happened, because it was just what I needed. It was so amazing. I'm so grateful for what happened. But for a year and a half, I lived with anger and stress over the fact that they wanted to fire me and not him. So 2 years go by and he gets fired for misappropriation of funds, lying about money. And I thought, And I went to my VP, who are still under, and I said, Jeff, here's the funny thing. He got fired because of mismanaging money for your company. And yet nobody did anything while he completely disrespected me and lied about me. Don't you think there's something wrong with the system? But that's the world we live in.
You've got balls, and I love that. and when you delve into your story, you obviously need them as well. But here's again an assumption that I'm throwing out. I don't think many people would be able in this moment to step up the way you did, to speak up, to stick with it, to give feedback even, years later, with all the disappointment in many respects that you have experienced there. Thank you also, because I just recognized while listening to you how much of that behavior I've experienced in the past. Yeah. And similarly to you, people were like, yeah, you know what he's like. And we had behavior such as, oh, let's just take somebody I'm not happy with, throw him against the wall and threaten him to smash him, basically, smack him in the face.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Oh, yeah. We have companies, the government is notorious for this in the military. We'll protect the bad seed. Why? Why do we do this? Fear of them coming back to us, fear. I don't know what it comes from, but we protect them. We put them in a little box and say, well, we'll just let him do this, or we'll let her be this way. Yeah. Because I have a horrible story. If you read the book, I don't know if you've come to the story where it was a personal friend of mine. She had a boss in the military that was just unbelievable what this lady did to her. Unbelievable. And she has excelled, moved on. But still, I thought while she was going through it, we were on WhatsApp constantly because she was overseas. And I was guiding her in 2 ways: how to hold her accountable and have a respectful conversation with no emotion, not being defensive, just calling out the facts, right? And then the second part is helping her stay positive and having that willpower and that mindset every single day, because it's work. It's a lot of work.
It is. And, building that willpower, remaining focused in this moment, not taking things personally because it's not about you.
Yeah.
That's so hard. It is.
Yeah.
And not being the one who says, and that could have easily happened in your situation, I'm out.
Right.
Right?
Yes. And I think, is it because of my military background? I'm not sure. I think it's my DNA. I think it's just my personality. I think I come from my parents, because I watch and observe how I react and act. And I'm like, oh, I'm a dad and he's tough as nails, and which I'm thankful for. Now, was I always that way? No. In high school, I was so timid and shy. People who know me in high school look at me now and they're like, how did you become this fearless woman? But I think it was in college where I opened up and said, if I'm not my own champion, who will be? If I don't stand up for myself, who will? Oh, that's right. The answer is no one. So I have to make sure that I stand up. I hold myself accountable. I hold others accountable. And I go after what I want, and I seek. And I'm also very huge on fairness. It's just what guides me. So if I'm fair, if I have integrity and credibility, and I show up with that every day in every conversation, I'm doing good. And I'm happy with how I'm coming across. So yeah, lots of years of practice.
Who or what was the initiator for you becoming your own biggest champion?
I look back and it was a guy that I was dating who just treated me awful. The disrespect, I'll never forget it. And the morning I woke up, we went to it was in college. So the fraternities and sororities used to have like balls and whatever. And I went with him. He asked me to go. I went with him and he just got drunk, disgusting behavior, and ignored me all night. I knew no one. And so I was basically left alone all night at this function, miserable. And I thought, never again. Never again. And I found a ride home. I don't even know how. He called me up the next day because I had his suit jacket. And he said, I'm so sorry. I'm like, come over if you want your jacket. I just hung up. And I was like, that's it. And so he comes up and I just threw it outside the door. I was like, you will never have an ounce of respect for me ever again. And I dropped it. I never thought about him again and I moved on. So, because here's the other thing. I'm not going to let these people take up space in my head.
Yeah.
I just can't. I did that with that boss, Joe, for a year and it killed me. It made me so angry at everything. And I thought, this isn't who I am. Why am I letting this person take up space in my head? I can't.
It's fascinating. I was interviewed today by a magazine and had a media training for it. And I asked that person who trained me, I'm like, politics will play somewhat a role in it. And I'm like, should I mention name X of a politician who I think is definitely narcissistic? And I literally despise our value systems, if he even has one, go miles apart. And she's like, can you please not do it? And the main reason is not even that you don't want to go too much into politics. The main reason is don't give them too much space. That's where these kind of people thrive and flourish and blossom. I'm like, you have such a good point with it. Why would I? Let's talk about those behaviors of people who show different behaviors, who are real role models, who inspire, and make sure we drive this positive change in small pockets in this world. Yes. No, these individuals, let them be in politics, let them be in organizations, cannot get more space.
Exactly. And again, it's that attention. A narcissist needs your attention. And if it's not positive, they'll take the negative. My husband always talks about his mom growing up was a little on the narcissistic side. She needed the attention. And if she didn't get it from her kids, she'd like pick a fight with them just to have them, come visit, interact, or pay her attention. Yeah. So it is, oh my gosh. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that you could be living with or working with who have these behaviors, who you walk around and maybe they trigger you, or you're like, this is just so unfair. And they see you react and get emotional and they love it because it just feeds their ego. They don't care about you. They truly don't. They don't think about you and they go away from you. So why should we think about them?
How did your husband turn out? Given that you are married, I assume pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he also, and he'll be the first to admit this, he's been in the Marine Corps for 38 years. He's a colonel. He tells people what to do. He takes charge. He's got a heart of gold, but he'll be the first to say, yeah, my empathy has sort of decreased and depleted over the years. So I was like, well, I'm glad you noticed that. Because it has. He's like, I need to work on being more empathetic and that's just something hard for him and it's not for him. It's more nurture, not nature. His nurture is, I have to be this way. I've been in the military for 38 years. I lead teams and troops and, all these people. I've been through 7 combat tours. He's seen the worst of humanity. He's like, that's why my empathy is so little and the way it is. I was like, well, we just need to rebuild it. He's like, I can do that.
Well, let's talk about that. I had similar conversations just without the military background with my husband. The one topic since we've got together was empathy.
Yes.
And me missing it and needing it so much. And he missed certain parts and me, obviously. And we brought that to the table. But I became really impatient over the years with regards to still, again, a moment of real lack of empathy here. What's going on?
Yeah.
And has he done a lot of work, and he's amazing, and I can see how much he's trying and improving in this area and so on. And I'm calling it out. This sounds like he has to do a lot of work and I'm so perfect. Clearly, that's not the case, but just picking on empathy.
I didn't hear that.
So I'm really curious. What does he do? What are the conversations he's got to, build and develop empathy in this challenging environment he finds himself in on a regular basis?
So when we are talking, when we're home and something arises, I have to actually initiate and make sure I don't, because let me tell you, I'm so impatient and I'm an extrovert and I will dominate a conversation. I got a lot of work to do and that's my DNA. So it's really, really hard to change. I know how I can be. He calls me, he's like, babe, you're like a dog on a bone. You just grab a topic and you won't let it go. And I'm like, well, that's the interrogator in me. So I have to make sure I recognize, okay, this is him. It's maybe a little nature, but definitely nurture over the years. Be patient with him. Approach him in a way that he's not going to get defensive, because the moment he gets defensive, forget it. The game is done. And we have to kind of part ways, take a break and go to our own corners, right? So I have to make sure what I say and how I communicate to him is going to be received by him, not as an attack, because I can get super aggressive, as you know, probably can, intuit that I do this. So I just have to be calm. I have to make sure that when I'm speaking to him, I take out the emotion words and the LY words and just make it real clear, very simple, very concise. I mean, I did this in my interrogation days to make sure I didn't upset anybody and kept that rapport. So I do it with him, and it allows him time to digest what I said without having that emotional barrier. Because once we get triggered emotionally, the barrier is up. We have now created a wall. So the behaviors, that's in the back seat. Now my emotions are in the front seat. So I have to tackle that first. That can take days for people. And then the issue of lacking empathy can be addressed. So I have to make sure that that barrier never comes up so we can address the issue. So I remain calm. And sometimes I'll just say, all right, so these are the words I said. This is what you said. Just think about it. Maybe there would have been a different approach to take. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to move on. I'm going to go to work, do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Just think about it, digest it, and we'll talk about it later. Because what I want to do is right now, answer me right now. Tell me why. It's clear as day. It's black and white. And he just was like, whoa, I need a minute. And so I have to make sure that I'm exercising patience.
And then he gets, in your example, an opportunity to reflect on the situation, what's been said and what to change. And then what's going to happen then?
So he'll come to me. Afterwards, he'll come to me. And if he doesn't, right, because he's also, you profile him. He's an extrovert. He is 38 years in the Marine. Everybody bows down to him, right? So if he doesn't come to me and I think enough time has passed, I'll approach it. Because for me, I always want this closure so I can put it in the trash can and never think about it again. So I will approach him and say, hey, what'd you think about that conversation we had? And if I could tell that he's like, oh, I don't really want to talk about this now, I'll just wait and to see what he responds. Because if I badger and I'm like, well, what'd you think of it? Can we talk about it now? He's going to feel interrogated. So I just wait and I listen. And if he says, I don't want to talk about it now, my follow-up is, when would you like to talk about it? That's it. But that's me holding him accountable.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to not discuss it. When would you like to talk about it? I'll be ready. And he'll say later today. I'm like, okay. And then usually by that time, he'll come to me. He's like, okay, so this is what I felt. This is what I heard, blah, 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 blah. And then we just hash through it.
I know it's such an important and meaningful topic, and yet I can't stop smiling. And
I know.
I think I asked you this question before. Right? I wonder if I were a fly on the wall in a room with the two of you, what kind of relationship I would see. Former interrogator, called the human lie detector in the US, right? And both with a military background.
Both type A. Yeah, everyone just kind of is like, how on earth do you, right? And yet if you tell us where we joke, one of our favorite movies is Oblivion with Tom Cruise. And,
Yeah.
even though he's dating or with a robot or they're both robots, I can't remember. They're always like, are we an effective team? So when the worst of the worst happens to us, I'll give you an example. We're both sailors and we had to move our big sailboat around to a new marina a few months ago. We're in Florida, so squalls will come up and happen all, Well, we miscalculated the tides and the time and et cetera. So it was a lot longer, but that was okay. We got into a squall and I literally had my radar app and we're fully up with the Garmin and all that. And I said, hey, get ready. We're getting attacked on 3 sides. We got a major one coming. It was so close. It was 9:00 at night. It's pitch black. And we got, the storm just dumped on us. Seas were crazy, lightning, thunder, pouring rain. And no matter what happens in our life, the two of us come together and we can conquer anything. Like everything that has happened or are different, it just goes away. And we become the most effective team. If you told us, all right, you two, you go need to, I don't know, build a house or something, we're like, we're on it. And we just, right? And we just become in sync and do it. But yet we'll get wrapped around a silly little thing such as something with the dogs, And I'm like, how can we tackle a major storm that's life-threatening in a boat? And yet we disagree on the dog food or something. I'm like, oh man. And we both laugh about it because we know we're like, well, that's us.
I also wonder what it is like to be married to you. I know that sounds a bit weird. Somebody who can literally look through any even white lie, in any moment. He seems to be strong from that perspective as well, to be able to say, that's all right. Let's just talk it out. Let's just be honest and direct. That would be my assumption here. But I think the question I asked you in our last call was, what do friends feel like? So if I were having a dinner with you in the evening, would I just feel like under surveillance all the time? And kind of, I noticed that in myself, talking to you now. I really had an itchy nose early on and I wanted to scratch my nose, but I didn't do it because I'm like, no, then she thinks I'm lying in this moment, whatever it is I'm doing. I am starting to overthink things. So what is it like with your social environment to be around you?
I think initially when people meet me, I never bring it up. They'll say, what do you do? And I say, I train law enforcement. Well, whatever. I kind of fly, write books, do some TV work. And then if they dig and I tell them, the first couple of days are awkward. Like the first couple of meetings are awkward. They start to, kind of look around, fidget. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, don't do anything. I'm not reading you. Although I will tell you, I cannot shut it off. It's just on 24/7. But what I do now is I pick and choose what I want to focus on. And if I don't want to focus on, I'm not going to focus on it. And so then after they get to know me, all of it goes away and they forget. They absolutely forget. And then if they do lie, right? And sometimes they're lying, not to me, but to other people or whatever, and my family, maybe they lied to me to make me feel good. I just don't bring it up. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And I let it go, but I think it wears off over time and people then start to ease up and like, oh, this is Lena, not Lena, the body language expert. And then they get used to me. And with my husband, he's actually trained in a lot of the same stuff. Yeah. So I think he gets it. He understands it. But there's a couple of times where he'll say, don't analyze that statement too much, Lena. And I'll say, oh, okay.
It feels really easy to just talk to you and chat to you. I said before we hit the record button, shall we start recording? Because otherwise we're probably going to sit here and chat, which I think in Gitmo was perhaps one of those strategies to help people feel comfortable, which we're going to talk about. So important. So it is easy to talk to you. And then as soon as I start to become aware again of your key qualities and your profession, I'm like, oh, okay, become really conscious, even though I don't know what to be conscious of because I'm just showing up as myself, chatting and talking and asking questions. But it does something to us, to me in this moment. It's weird.
Yeah. It's the thoughts, right? I always tell people, so I work a lot with people who are trying to build up their confidence. And I'm like, confidence is, yes, it comes from competence, but if you don't have that, it's just a mindset because our thoughts drive our behavior 100% throughout the day, just our lives. So our thoughts create the emotions we feel. nobody can make us feel anything. And I had I don't know. I wrote it in one of my Honest Answers book. And it's so funny and I teach it in my classes. I'm like, nobody can make you angry, sad. It's only you, because it's the thoughts you're thinking about this person's behavior. And it's the things that you're telling yourself that creates the emotion. But it's humanly impossible for somebody to make you upset or angry or mad, which is a hard pill to digest. But anyway, when I get a little, and my husband's like, babe, chapter 9, Honest Answers. It's the thoughts that making you angry right now. And I'm like, oh, and of course, he does it jokingly, but I'm like, oh, okay. What am I going to say to that? So at the point, I tell people, like in your instance, the point you say, oh, my nose itches, she might be reading, dump the thought. Like my nose itches, there's lights facing on on me, or I have allergies. Say, who cares? I'm going to itch my nose. Right. And as soon as those thoughts now occupy your brain, the whole demeanor changes. For people who are keynote speaking, they're like, I get so nervous. I'm like, well, then your nerves are coming from these thoughts. I bet you're thinking, everybody's watching me. What if I forget what I'm going to talk about? What if I trip up? What if I look nervous? Stop those thoughts. Replace them with, I'm going to kill this. I'm going to be awesome. If I screw up, who cares? People love me because I'm genuine. I'm a human and I know my stuff. I'm going to go give them a great show. And those thoughts have a whole nother demeanor, right? And we have this power to control everything we think, feel, say, and do. But again, it's hard to do that because we're humans.
And there's a beautiful connection to the story about Joe in what you just said. Because you could say in this moment, oh my God, I better don't say anything. And maybe, he's going to fire me and better keep quiet and calm in this moment. And you didn't. Or you may have had some of those thoughts and changed them. So if we were to pick out this example one more time, not sure if you can remember, but what thoughts might you have replaced and how?
Oh, I remember the thoughts. If I speak up, I'm going to get fired. Right. I remember those thoughts. He's a man. He's my boss. I've only been here for 8 months. I'm the female. So these thoughts kept coming. Who's going to believe me over him? If I call him and, to the carpet, he's going to get mad at me. He's going to get the other guys on the team mad at me. They're going to target me, make me look crazy. I'm going to get fired. All those thoughts came in. But what trumped them was, you're not going to ever treat me like this, ever. And that thought overrode everything else. And I'm going to stand up for myself and I'm going to hold you accountable. Because at that point, I also knew what the whole thing tripped off was a misconception. It wasn't a true thing. So I thought, I need to come and clear my name and my reputation right now because this never happened. And I will tell you what happened. Oh, and I have a witness as to what really happened. So I'm here to set the truth straight. So that just dissipated all those doubtful or negative thoughts.
Now, what I found astonishing when listening to you is your body language as well. So nonverbal communication, right? You look into the camera very clearly. You speak in simple terms clearly. Again, the tone of your voice changes too. And I would be very certain to say that's important in these kind of situations too. I mean, Absolutely. As to whether you say, sorry, but I just want to ask a question and maybe, or let's talk about this. What I've noticed is X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. There's a huge difference in it. So help us understand the power of non-verbal communication in these kind of situations and when you deal with narcissists and the likes of it.
Yes. All right. So first, even if you have those thoughts like, oh, can I approach this person? Can I hold them accountable? Change the thoughts is number one. But this is what else is going to happen. There's a saying in the body language world, move your body, move your mind. When you take up space with your body, it can be with your arms, it can be with your feet. You can always keep your chin up, not like this, but good distance with your chin. When you take up space with your body, it is a subliminal message to your mind that you feel powerful and confident. So the moment you start to ball up, we call it, which is like crossing arms, which is, hiding all of our front parts, which is our power zones and our neck, our belly button and our naughty bits. We cover them up when we tend to feel fear. And this is unconsciously as well, but we'll cross our legs. We'll get smaller. if you're going to get smaller physically, your whole demeanor is going to get smaller. We need our demeanor to get bigger and more confident. So I want everybody to take up space when they're being confronted with a challenging conversation. It's only going to help suppress cortisol. Amy Cuddy proved this, right? She has the most watched TED Talk ever. And so with science, she proved that when you take up space, the levels of cortisol actually drop in your body and the stress response system doesn't get triggered. When you ball up and become smaller, it could be comforting in the moment, but all that does is increase the cortisol release. Now, you not only feel insecure, you look it. And you cannot hold somebody accountable and feel and look insecure. You've got to feel confident. When speaking with the verbal, use less words. And it's just what you said. My tone drops a little, right? The whole pitch drops because when we get nervous, the cortisol will put strain on our vocal cords and the pitch of our voice will rise like this. So if we keep that pitch down consciously, we slow down our speech, we speak very deliberately, right? Not being arrogant, you're just being confident and clear. All of that combined is going to deliver the most powerful message to that person.
That was brilliant. The moment you described the crossing legs, chin up, I noticed how my body responded. My chin went up ever so slightly. I sat straight. My
Shoulders
feet
down.
are grounded on the floor. And immediately I felt a sense of, ooh, I'm breathing more openly.
Yes.
And my shoulders went back.
Yeah.
So just you talking through it had an impact.
Oh, I love that.
I love that too. And I wonder, how can we talk about that more often in different environments and systems so people do become more aware of it, of those small moments that can make a huge difference?
Yeah. I mean, just by dropping your shoulders back and lifting your chin, walking with maybe a bigger stride, right? As you walk into a room or you're walking on stage, it scientifically, biology here, suppresses cortisol and you just step into this realm of power. It feels so good. So I tell people now, I practice yoga. I love my yoga because it just stretches my body. And look, if I'm not traveling, I'm at a computer and I'm hunched. Even my chiropractor is like, Lena, we got to get that neck, work on your neck. So I'm always thinking of lengthening and opening. And the moment we start to do that, you just feel alive. You have strength, you have power, you have the courage. And so setting yourself up non-verbally first to have this conversation is paramount. If you walk in and you're closed up or you're balled up or you're small, now your mind's going to think small. I think there's a direct correlation. Be big, think big, right? Look what I'm doing now. Like I feel so energized. I'm like, oh, I want to go talk to someone. We call this thumbs of power. When people put their thumbs out, it means I feel good. I feel confident, I feel in control. When people hide their thumbs, it means, I feel a little insecure. And how do we know this? If you look at babies, what do they do with their thumbs? They hide them or they put them in their mouth, right? And as they get older, they start to creep out. But when people talk with open palms, open fingers, those wide thumbs, and they're making these grand gestures, that tells me you are feeling pretty powerful right now. You are feeling really good and confident.
Well, now I understand why a certain person of power does that all the time.
And they, you know what? And they could be, right? Because some people, sorry, I hope you can't hear my dogs, but they're barking like mad. Some people, I know, right? Some people will walk into a situation and be like, oh, I do feel nervous. Let me reset and do this to have that effect, knowing that they always feel better when they take up more space. And they may never have listened to me or a body language class, but they know the moment they do this, like, oh, I feel pretty good. And people like this. They listen to me more. They pay attention to me more. They give me better eye contact. And now it's the thing I always do before I go give a speech.
I'm so going to be doing that now all the time. It does feel good right away. It's incredible. Yeah. And it gives you a little stretch as well, which is good.
Yes.
I want us to have enough time to talk about your story, which is for me as a nerd in the space of interrogation, thrillers, crime series and whatnot, so fascinating. And yet I don't think we have quite talked enough about dark psychology and those different personality disorders that may show up. So I would love to find some closure here.
Yeah.
You talked about narcissistic personality disorder. I come from an organizational background where I worked in various roles in large global organizations. And what I heard frequently and what I said frequently was, this is a really toxic environment.
Yeah.
Now you can say that and say there's toxic behavior. And you've already mentioned one of those clear toxic behaviors, which is the one of narcissist personality disorder. You've mentioned psychopathy as well. And what I would love to understand better and share with the listeners is what's out there. How can we define toxic behavior more? Yeah. How can we recognize it, most importantly? And you've already shared some beautiful top tips with regards to dealing with it as well. But if there are any other beautiful nuggets we can share, then I would love for you to do so.
Yeah. So I wouldn't, when I tell people about the antisocial personality disorders, because that's what they are labeled as, I tell people, don't worry about putting a label on them. Look at the behaviors of the people. And here's what I want you to kind of feel, get in tuned with. Number one, are they out hurting people? Are they lying? Are they cheating? Are they manipulating? Are they spinning stories, right? Are what they saying completely false, right? Are they the untruths? Are they very impulsive? Like, I should have known better. Back in the story I told you, to throw a laptop during a C-suite meeting, that's pretty darn impulsive. That's a little crazy, right? Are they impulsive? Do they lack empathy? Not here and there, like all the time. Do they have no remorse or guilt for their behaviors? And because nobody's ever holding them accountable, they keep doing it, right? Do they constantly need attention from you? Rewards? Are they constantly seeking something better? Do they feel self-entitled around you? Do they put you down? Do they disrespect you? Do they give you backhanded comments, right? And so they call it negging, where somebody will tell you what it sounds like to be a compliment, but really it's a backhanded whatever. Like something would be like, Lena, for being a female, you are a decent interrogator. Like, wow. All right. Wow. Right. Now, how do I take that? That's a good example of negging. And just poor behavioral control. I will tell you that psychopathy is the one personality disorder that often leads to violent acts and criminal activities. Not so much narcissism, but it absolutely can. And the other crazy thing is not all psychopaths are killers ever. Right? They're just not. Again, they can be leaders, and we can look at people and be like, oh, wow, I just love how they, stand out in front of everybody and make these hard decisions and blah, blah, blah. But if you look down in the, why they made the decision was to benefit themselves and no one else. And they don't care. And there's no guilt or remorse. So those are the qualities. And you're going to see this repeated. It's not like a one time, like, oh, it's a crisis mode and everybody's coming together and, they're barking out orders and being really insensitive and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because in that moment, you're in a crisis mode and you probably need this like direct leadership or communication. But outside of that, if they're pretty good, right, behavioral wise, then they probably don't have a personality disorder. But on the whole, if you start to see these, and it affects you, that's when you need to start investigating. And the question you really need to ask is, number one, do I still feel safe and happy working or living with this person? And number two, if I don't, how do I change it? Because again, if this is nurture or nature, you're not going to change it. It is their personality trait. You cannot change it. Like I can't change the fact I'm an extrovert. Can something happen in my life and I become more introverted? Absolutely. But at the core, I am an extrovert. I'm intuitive. That will never change, just like narcissism, just like psychopathy. So at that point, it's what do I do with the behavior? And you need to be honest with yourself. Just like with my neighbor. Finally, 10 years. 10 years of living with this abuse, she finally felt powerful enough and strong enough and realized this is wrong. This guy is taking advantage of me. He is manipulating me. He is abusing me. I'm leaving. It's not safe for me anymore. And so that's what I tell people to focus on. And don't doubt yourself ever. If you are noticing these patterns of behavior in people around you in your world, and you've had it, and you don't want to deal with it anymore, it's time to stand up and take a stand. You can have a conversation with them. But again, with that conversation, I like to use a leadership tool called the SBIR feedback tool. And here's why I use it. It takes out all the fluff of communication. It's crystal clear. There's no emotion, and there's no second guessing what I'm saying. And so I will talk to this individual who has disrespected me, and I'll tell you the situation, which is the time and place of when you did it, the behavior you did. You said the F word to me multiple times and told me to F off. That's very disrespectful. I will also tell you the impact it had on me. And then I'm going to ask you for the request. The request is, let's have a face-to-face meeting. Let's talk about this. Let's whatever. Or I request you not to talk to me like that again. Or I request that you respect me as an employee, as a human, as a partner, whatever. And so when it becomes that crystal clear situation, behavior, the impact it had and the request I want, a lot of times people will take that and not take it too personally. They'll listen. They may not like it, but it's not on this personal level, and they may make a change. And if they don't, always remember, it's your choice to leave. And also setting boundaries. Listen, no is no. It's not maybe. It's not, well, no today, right? It's no. And when you have to dig your heels in and stand up for yourself. If no is no, that's what it is. And if you don't want this relationship anymore, you're going to end it. If you need support, if you need resources and all of that, because remember, safety is paramount. That's what you have to seek. But you're your own champion. You're your own guide of your future. And we just have to step into that power role to say, you know what? I'm making the decisions now. This is how my life is going to look in a year, in a week, in 5 years. And I'm going to get myself there. It's a lot of stuff. Sorry, I just kept talking about it.
And I'm grateful for it. It is a lot of stuff. And you're 100% right. And one reflection that just came up for me was, is it a sign when people in your network start to fade away? Yeah. And what do I mean by that? You are one of the concerned neighbors, right? Who sees it, who experienced that behavior, how she has been suffering. And people who care about you will talk to you about it. They will listen, but they also will be there for you and support you, perhaps give you some top tips if they feel safe enough to do that, and so on. And then over years and years and years, nothing is changing and the story remains the same. And what I've experienced is that people start to kind of distance themselves. And that was for me a sign of, okay, something is off track here. And it's not just that I'm in this very toxic relationship, but also I start to lose people who have been on my side. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And in a lot of times, I had a friend years ago, she's a great woman, and she was going through something. And so I was helping her and we're trying to figure out how to remedy it and et cetera, et cetera. But what she kept doing was going right back to the same behavior, and then have the same problem, and then the same behavior, and the same problem. And it was this loop. And I said, all right, after 2.5 years of this, I have to tap out, because you're coming to me for help and advice. I'm giving the best I can. Obviously, it's not working, but I can't sit here and just listen to the baggage and everything that can be fixed. So I'm going to turn you on to this person. They're a professional and therapy, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be great for you to work through this. But at that point, you know, you're going to lose your friends. You absolutely will, or your network, or even your peers and your colleagues. My husband has a saying. He said, listen, if everyone you meet in your life is I can't say it's an a-hole. Yeah. You're probably that. It's probably not everyone that you're meeting in your life, right? So if you find yourself constantly pointing fingers at, well, there always is, and this, and that, it may be something in you that you have to fix. And I say this because I learned a hard life lesson when I was green, when I was very young. And this is after my deployment. I was training interrogators. And because I'm an extrovert, because I have a very easy time being directive in my leadership style, I am a type A. When I was running this interrogation class, I wasn't, let's say, the most empathetic. I had to learn empathy. And when I told the students, listen, this is hard class. And if you can't hack it here, you'll never hack it in the real world when you deploy. So you shouldn't be here. And so don't come to me and complain. I want you to fix the problem. I want you to do X, blah, blah, blah. And I was pretty hardcore. And after the course was over, but even though the hardcore part of me was driven by making them the best interrogators, they didn't see that. They saw me as being completely insensitive, mean, not empathetic, some other choice words I won't say here. And I had one courageous student give me the feedback. She's like, listen, I know your personality type. I'm the same way. I loved the course. I thought you were amazing, but other people didn't. And here's why. And I was like, oh, right. And I thought, Lena, you got to change. And I did. And I absolutely did. And it just has made me a way better instructor and presenter and everything to this day.
So how did you do it without losing who you are authentically?
Well, I will tell you, I was very careful in what I said. And even though I was like, listen, if you can't hack it here, you'll never make it out there. I changed it to this. This course is really hard, but this is why it's hard for you guys, because we want to test your limits to make sure you're going to be safe when you deploy. It sounds much better, doesn't it?
Sounds like Top Gun, you know, those intro scenes when the new students start.
Yes. Yeah. But
Makes
I thought
sense,
everything that I was saying back then, I'm like, I can say it better. I can absolutely say it better.
Yeah.
And so that's what I started working on.
You used the word interrogation a few times. You shared some insights into your military service experience. So let's talk more about it. I mean, when I received the intro to you, I was like, oh, this is a person who's been at Guantanamo Bay. What? I've just watched the Mauritanian. Need to talk to her. That was my initial response. And then you shared with me that you actually trained, studied archaeology. And that's where you spend time in Europe. And I was like, okay, help me build that connection between this and military service. And I'm asking you to do exactly the same for the listeners, please.
You got it. Yeah, my life dream was to be an archaeologist. I loved Indiana Jones movies. That's what I grew up on. And I thought, this is what I want to do because I love adventure. I love culture. I love traveling. I love history. I love the art. So it was just the perfect fit for me. And I became one. So I got my undergrad in anthropology. I went to Brown. I got my master's in archaeology, where I went to Greece and Italy and did my digs. I was a Romanist, more classical archaeologist. And then the department lost its funding and I was stuck. So I couldn't continue on to get my PhD. And they thought, well, they told me you can either go to classics or art history. And I thought, ooh, but that's not the scientist. I'm the scientist. Like I'm digging in the dirt. I'm doing all of this analysis, right? And I say that word for this reason. So I go and I graduate, get my degree, and I don't have a job. And my dad's like, I think you need to get a job. It's time. I'm like, yeah, I know, you're right. So I had a friend who had joined military intelligence. She's like, why don't you just join the Navy and be, an intelligence officer? It's super cool, like James Bond. And I thought, could I make the leap from Indiana Jones to James Bond? Yes, I can. And that's why I did it. I mean, really, because it sounded cool and they were going to pay me. That's why I did it. And when I met with the recruiter, I went in as the lowest rank ever, but I didn't care. I had no military background or bearing. So I was like, yeah, I'll go in as an E3. It's fine. And when he talked about the intel world, I was like, wow. So I could be using my analytical mind here too, not just in archaeology. In archaeology, we're digging up things to put together past lifeways, right? Form a picture. What happened? How did they live and all this other stuff? How does society work? And in intel, you do the same thing. And I thought, there's this absolute bridge. And I didn't really know it when I joined, but as I went through and got trained, I did. And then becoming interrogator was just a crazy thing. I had a commander. I still talk to him today, love him to death. And he said, Lena Sisco, we want you to join this new program. It's called IPW, Interrogation Prisoners of War. And I was like, huh? I was like, I don't know about that. And he said, well, the Marines are coming to talk to us today. It was on reserve weekend for me. And we really think that you'd be a good fit with your personality and your background and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, sir, because I was gung-ho. I would do anything you asked me to. And I listened to the Marines. I was like, oh, no, this is not for me. I don't want to live in a tent in a country with bombs going off around me, interrogating prison. I'm like, yeah, I just don't think I'll be good at it, number one. I don't think I can handle it, number two. And I was just like, oh, it's not for me. So after the lecture, I said, sir, thank you so much for thinking I would be good at this, but I'm going to say no. And he's like, are you sure? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, that really makes me sad because I just see something in you and I think you would be great at it. So I went home that night, Saturday night. We had one more day for reserve weekend. And I thought to myself, I'm like, what made me say no? Oh, I know, fear of the unknown, because I don't know what this entails. I don't know what I would be doing. I don't even know if I would love it. And so why did I say no? And I got mad at myself. And I went back Sunday morning and I found the commander. I'm like, sir, sign me up. He's like, are you sure? And I said, not really. But I said, you know what? If I fail, it's okay, right? He was like, absolutely. I said, I don't want to disappoint you. I know you think I'm going to be awesome at this. I don't, but I'm going to try it out. Why not? Let me take the challenge. And thank God I did, because it ended up being what I love in life. It's the thing I'm meant to do. And it's not so much just interrogating. It's just that the whole psychology, the human behavior, it's digging for the truth. I'm a huge, fair and justice girl. So the fact that I could actually have a job, that my job was to get the truth from people, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do in life. And yeah, and then it just kind of launched from there.
And you know what I find mad, absolutely mad? I could probably spend a day with you and learn about a lot of what you have done. I'm not saying learning about psychology, that would take much, much, much longer, but I find it fascinating. But what I find mad is, in the most positive sense, the directions it all took you to.
Yeah.
I mean, you seem to be a celebrity in the US for detecting lies and, when I read that you observed and analyzed the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case, for example, dating shows where you check as to whether the partners deceive the other one or as to whether they are truthfully. We are going in a moment to talk about Guantanamo Bay. It's nuts. Sorry to say it as it is, and so fascinating. Yeah. So where would you say your line of real passion lies within that space?
I really think it's being able to bring someone from complete uncompliance, I don't like you, I'm going to lie to you, to saying, oh, I trust you so much. This is what really happened. This is why I did X. When you can flip a person and do that 180 for them not liking you, not trusting you, lying to you, to having complete trust in you, telling you the truth, to me, it's magic. It's absolute magic. And I tell people when I teach my classes, it's a basket of tools. There is no one thing gets that. It's a full basket of a lot of tools. Self-awareness, situational awareness, communication, questioning skills, elicitation, body language, all this stuff, rapport building. How do I get trust? But I love it. I think I love being able to take all of these parts, put them together, create a method. And that method works to get people to say, okay, this is what I did. This is why I lied.
So let's get into the method with the example of Guantanamo Bay, because 9/11 happened. And what followed was, for you.
And I'll go back to when I got trained as an interrogator. After the year-long training, I was like, woohoo, I graduated top of my class. I'm 12 out of 30 people graduated. I love this. What am I going to do with it? And because this was 1999. And so I'm like, well, okay, great. And, we did training, we did mock exercises, all this stuff. And I was like, when am I going to use it real world? At this point, I got commissioned to an officer and I was in my officer candidate school. And I was taking a break, and I'll never forget, I was having coffee. It was like 9 a.m. and we had to go back to the classroom. We have an etiquette for officers, naval officers. And I heard the announcers on the news, just getting real worried and something, catastrophic happened. So I was like, ooh, and I turned around and I watched the planes fly into the Twin Towers. I'm like, oh my God, that's not by accident. I knew it. I said, we're under attack. And 20 minutes later, I got a phone call from my commanding officer. He's like, hey, when you're done with that school, pack your bags. I'm sending you to war. You're going to war. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, what am I going to do? He's like, what you're trained to do. You're going to interrogate these people who plan this. And I was just like, oh, that's a big slap of reality. And off I go to Gitmo. And when I got to Gitmo, it was so surreal because I landed, got my guys situated. They were bringing me down to the prison, to the camp, to walk me through everything in the operations. It was so chaotic that day because we were moving all 600 detainees from the old prison to the new prison. There were guards and this and helicopter. I mean, it was a war zone, it looked like. But thankfully, there were no rockets or gunfire. So I get there. And at one point, I just remember looking up into the sky and out at the Caribbean blue water saying, how the heck did I get here? Mm-hmm. It was so surreal. And also doubting whether or not I was going to survive it and if I was going to be good. And so my first interrogation, I tell people, was terrible. It was awful. I wanted to fire myself and ship myself back home. And so that night I just had a one-to-one conversation and I was like, never again. You're going in there. You were trained to do something. You're good at it. Go do it. People's lives are at stake. You have no excuse. Mm-hmm. And it just changed my whole trajectory. While I was there, although I got, great training with the Marine Corps, I thought I have something better. I can make this better, more effective, because I truly, truly believe everything should be rapport-based and non-accusatory. If you're going to accuse people and you're not going to have rapport, you're just going to piss them off. I don't want to deal with a pissed off person. No, not my thing. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't want mirror neurons coming in and making me feel aggravated. I want this to be good. So my purpose was to always create that safe environment because, and this is all my training, the truth will come easily if you do step one first. And step one is, I need to get you to trust me. If you don't trust me, you will never tell me the truth. You'll lie to me and say it's the truth. You will deceive me. You'll lie by omission. But you won't give me the truth. Why would you? I wouldn't tell someone the truth if I didn't trust them. So I thought, okay, Lena, what's the best method to gain trust? And I just started working with all these techniques, and fast forward years, it's become my method. And I have core competencies in there, which include things like, of course, being non-accusatory, getting that trust, how to do it, really effective questioning techniques. If you ask a bad question, you're going to get a bad answer every single day. So tightening up those questions. I have one golden rule, which is, and you can use this in business, you can use this at home, you can use it anywhere. If you're trying to find out information, never, ever tell a person what they did and why they did it, because you're just feeding them information. And if it's less harsh than what they really did and why they did it, well, of course, they're going to jump on board with whatever you just gave them. So instead, you just ask, what did you do? Why did you do that? Without being accusatory, without blame, without judgment, simple question. I always was kind, because I will tell people, never mistake my kindness for weakness, ever. I control everything in our conversation at all times, but I'm doing it with respect, empathy, and kindness. And it costs nothing to smile and be kind. People think of it as a sign of weakness. I think it's the greatest sign of power. Because when you can be kind to someone who has committed an atrocity, who you know is lying to you, that's powerful. Because that takes the strongest amount of willpower ever. And think of why you're doing it. Oh, that's right, to get them to tell you the truth. I can be kind to you all day long.
That was powerful, what you've just shared, and resonated so strongly with me. And at the same time, interrogation always has this quite harsh connotation.
Oh, yeah.
When I hear the word interrogation, right, I just watch movies. Series, how far or how close they are to reality, I have no idea. But I think of waterboards, loud music for a long period of time, sleep deprivation, all of this stuff, right?
Yeah, of course. But everyone does.
Interrogation is clearly different.
Yes.
So I don't know, obviously, how much you can share and how little you can share, but it would be brilliant to understand that process as well. So if you speak to people who have been brought to Gitmo because they are the ones who initiated this horrific attack that took thousands of lives, then I assume you are not going to get the real truth within a day. I think it's a longer process. The method you've just shared makes a lot of sense, but what did it look like in practice?
Yeah.
And what were moments, and I know I'm stacking questions here, shows my passion for it. What were perhaps surprises as well that you realized for yourself? Something completely unexpected that was like, whoa.
We raced against the clock constantly. When I was there, it was pure chaos. And we worked more towards stopping riots, suicide attempts, and fights in the prison than we did trying to collect intel. It was pandemonium at the time. But we were driven by stopping the next attack, by finding out who did this, who is behind it, everything. There were so many requirements and information. And when you are faced with that, because the chaos was still going on, you just have to take one bit at a time. You can't get overwhelmed by everything, because when you get overwhelmed, you become emotional. You're going to start being accusatory. You're going to start saying, you're using all the methods that you shouldn't use. To me, the best interrogator is a very critical thinker, a very strategic thinker. It's all about strategy. You have to, it's like a chess game, and you have to be 5 steps ahead of the person you're talking to. Going in an interrogation, losing your cool, yelling at the person, whatever, it doesn't take any skill. Anybody could do that. A 5-year-old could do that. You do not impress me if you do that. In fact, you just show your weakness. When you are truly that trained interrogator, you are a master chess player, because you've thought out everything. There's so many components to use. I don't even know where to begin, but you have a direction. You know how you're going to build rapport. You know all the questions you're going to ask. You know how to listen to people so that you find leads and the intent and motivation for behind what people have done. Discovering that is huge. But prior to all that, it's getting that person to trust you. How do you get a person who hates you just because you're an American, who has nothing in common with you, or so they think? How do you get that person to trust you? And there's a bunch of ways. I used my interpreters kind of as a go-between to get trust, because my interpreters spoke the language. They were from the country. They knew the cultural customs and norm. I always went in with respect and kindness, even if at the beginning, they would spout off rhetoric to me, and you all deserve to die, and we'll do it again, and we want to hunt you down and kill you and your family. I let it do this because I just felt, I'm like, well, number one, I'm not worried about it, because you're probably not getting out of prison anytime too soon. Number two, this is what your brain has been conditioned to think. So truly, if you believe it, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I'm not even going to argue about what you believe. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to build the trust and get the truth about the next attack. So when they would try to kind of loop me into these conversations, I never got looped in. I would let them, kind of vent. I'd let them say whatever they wanted, and I would just leave it over here. And I would just be quiet for a minute and then launch into the next question. And I'll ask them how they feel about sitting here with me, how they feel about Gitmo, whatever. But I never brought up any judgment as to what happened, because it doesn't get you anywhere. You're never going to change a belief. Never. You're going to change a culture. So what can I change? Oh, I know. I can change how you feel about me, Lena, in this booth right now. I can change how you talk to me. I can change whether or not you want to tell me the truth and how long or how fast it's going to take me. That's what I can change. And I think back to Stephen Covey's, book about the 7 habits of highly effective people. And he talks about the circle of concern and the circle of influence. My concern was, right, how do I get you to think killing all these innocent people was absolutely crazy and they didn't deserve it? If I can't bring the concern over to influence, it needs to go away. I'm not going to change that. So I put it in the trash can. I never tried to. Instead, another concern. How do I get you to trust me? Oh, I can fix that one. So I bring it over my circle of influence. I'm going to bring in tea. I'm going to have the guards take off your cuffs. If you have any issues, I'm going to address them. Maybe you need a doctor. Maybe you want a cell block change, whatever. And we're going to do this quid pro quo, right? I'm not going to give you all this stuff. You're going to give me stuff too, but I'm going to be open and honest with you. So therefore you'll be open and honest with me. And it didn't happen overnight, just like what you said. I mean, it took sometimes days for me to break through that barrier with one detainee until they said, Now, I will say one instance that I write about in my first book, it took about 15 minutes. He was a Saudi and he came in, and just an act of kindness, I gave him a comfortable chair. I took the wrist cuffs off him. I sat in the uncomfortable chair and smiled at him when he walked in the door. And he was a little not forthcoming as we started, but then he warmed up. I got us mint tea, brought in tea. We spent 8 to 9 hours that day talking. He was so cooperative and so amazing. He brought in his 2 cousins to try to get them to talk to me. But one cousin just didn't want to. He was like, no, you deserve this. Gee, whatever. I'm not going to change that. And so he became my source inside the prison. One day after 3 months, he kind of looked at me and said, hey, I want to work for you. Wink, wink. And I was like, oh, okay. And then after that, another agency swooped in and kind of ran him. But why I say this is because one day after interrogation, he said, hey, do you want to know why I was so cooperative with you? Why I never lied? Why I wanted to work with you? And I was like, yes, I do. He's like, because you were so kind to me the first day you met me, that you took me by surprise. And after your act of kindness, I couldn't lie to you. Now, that was him, right? There a lot of other people wouldn't do that. But it just happened to be him, and it worked that day. And so I truly believe that you attract more bees with honey than vinegar. And at some point, everybody wants to be heard, appreciated, listened to, and valued. I can give you that. If it's going to help me do my job and it's going to help us have a better relationship, I don't care what you did. I just have to know what you did. And that's the approach I took in Gitmo.
I have a strong belief that it is the healthier version for you as well.
Yes.
Because let's imagine you would not share this kindness. You would not have this mental attitude, and you take more and more resentment and anger home to your room, to your space. Yes. How is that going to, quote unquote, get you through this really tough assignment in a way that still feels somewhat sane?
Yeah.
With all the passion in the world.
Yeah. And that's why it not only was super effective in getting, the detainees to trust me and to open up with me, but it also kept me at a very sane level, and it kept me positive. And I was energized every day coming into, work, not like doom and gloom, like, oh God, I have to deal with these again. But no, it was so different from me. And everybody would, a lot of people are like, well, you are a female. How is it to build rapport with them? I'm like, they didn't view me as a female in their culture. I was an American female. I was dressed in BDUs. I looked like a man, pretty much. So I was a third gender. I was more intriguing than anything. Now, when a military man would walk in who was like 6'4" and all, big, now immediately there was this kind of like, tension, right? The bravado, man on man. I walked in, they're like, oh, who's she? Right? And I'm like, as soon as I get you to get just a teeny bit of interest in me, I got you. I can work with that.
I admire this experience. I am taking a lot away from it. In particular, the kindness makes a ton of difference and helps you achieve your goals much easier than in any other way. And I'd love for you to share some top tips with our listeners, because you detect lies.
Yes.
Now I'm scratching myself again. I'm really aware of this. Here we go. You detect lies. Mm-hmm. And I wonder as to whether there are 2 or 3 hints you can leave with us to help us detect them more quickly as well in any environment.
Absolutely. I'm going to share 3 that are so accurate and prevalent. All right. And here they are. So the number 1 most accurate indicator of deception is called behavioral incongruence, which is when your body language does not match your spoken language. So I'm going to give you examples with that, because this is literally 99.9 to infinity accurate when somebody's not being on the level with you and being honest. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the shoulder shrug. All right. So when we shrug our shoulders as we're speaking, your shoulder shrug means uncertainty. So if I were to say, I have no idea what I'm going to do tonight, my words are saying, I have no idea. Uncertainty. My shoulders are in agreement with my words. Like, yeah, she doesn't know. But if I look at you and say, I'm going to travel to Italy tomorrow, right? And it's a definitive statement. I'm going to Italy tomorrow. And I shrug my shoulders. That does not make sense. It's not in sync. So what that is telling you is the person is doubting what they're saying. And that should not happen. If they're doubting what they are saying, so should you. Look for the shoulder shrug. Now, the baseline is, do they have a neck issue? Do they have like an itch? Do they have a nerve problem? So that could be kind of over here. But with the shoulder shrug, they come with when the brain is uncertain of what it's thinking and saying. So to lie with my words, I can say that. But the shoulder is thinking of what's really in my prefrontal cortex, which is the truth. Because every time we lie, we have the truth come up, we have to push it aside, and we have to think of a lie or remember our lie. And so that's why body language is so critical. Now, words are critical too. I'm a word nerd, and looking at them together is the most accurate. But that shoulder shrug is number one. If someone is saying to you something definitive, it doesn't belong there. We have a criminal, Jerry Sandusky. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
All right, United States. You don't want to know him. He's a pedophile and he's in jail now, thankfully. He was in an interview before he got convicted and he said, he did 2 shoulder shrugs. He goes, well, what Katie Couric said was wrong. Right? And he shrugged his shoulders. What Katie Couric said was wrong. That's a definitive statement. Why are you doubting it? Then he followed up with, I don't know what else to say. Now that's congruent. And I believe that because you know you've been had. You got caught. The second one is head nods and shakes. Now, this is a cultural thing too. There's a few countries, I think, Istanbul, Turkey, perhaps. Don't quote me. You'd have to look them up, but just rarely few, like maybe 3 to 4, where an up and down head nod is not yes, and the side to side shake is not no. Other than that, right? It's in the rest of the countries around the world, a nod is yes and a shake is no. So if you ask a person a yes, no question, that should be congruent. So if you ask me, Lena, did you enjoy our podcast today? And I say, yes, right? I should nod as I'm saying yes. But if I say, oh, absolutely, it was great. And I shake my head, no, you better doubt me.
Yeah.
Right? Those 2 things should 100% of the time be matched up, all of the time. So look for the congruent nodding and shaking when somebody is either saying yes or no, or agreeing or disagreeing. If it is out of sync, then you need to do more investigating. The other thing to look for with a yes, no question. A lot of liars do not like to take that accountability and responsibility for an answer or a simple answer. So they will avoid yes and no. If you look at Anthony Weiner, he was the congressman who sent the picture of his private parts out to college girls, you know, cheating and a whole bunch of other lewd behavior. Oh, yeah. He's, anyway. And of course, you know, his name is Anthony Weiner. You can't get any more crazier than that, but whatever. So while he was being questioned about this, and yes, he did, he lied. He came out and admitted to sending it to like 6 girls. But anyway, while he was lying, he was asked this yes or no question by reporters. The question was this: did you send the tweet of your private parts to these girls? That's it. Did you send the tweet? It's a yes, no question. Typically, I avoid yes, no questions because I like to work with narrative responses. But in this case, when I want to know if you're lying, I'm going to ask you a very simple yes, no question. Never once in any interview could he answer what? No, yeah. Never once. Anthony, did you send the tweet? All he had to do was say no. He would have been so believable. But instead, he would dodge the yes, no. He would start talking about other stuff and say, well, I've been talking about this prank forever now. And because nobody believes me, the reporter would cut him off and say, yes or no, did you send the tweet? He'd go off again. So if you ask someone a yes, no question and they're being honest with you, a truthful person has no problem answering you with a simple yes or simple no, and they're going to be congruent. But a liar will not commit to a yes or no. They'll oversell it. They'll embellish it. They'll avoid it. So those are 3 solid tips to look for and are really accurate with people lying.
And really simple to focus on.
And they're so easy. Well. Yes.
Wow. I'm going to go through this world today with a different focus, trying to detect it. Happy day. Wow. Something to look forward to.
There you go.
Lena, seriously, I wished we would have another hour to chat.
I know.
fascinating. Before I let you go, because you've got packing and organizing to do, as your husband is taking you away to the beautiful land of Italy.
Yes.
Where can people find out more about you and what I've seen, your exciting Truth app?
Yes, I'm so excited about this. It has been a dream of mine, never in a million years. And I'm not a tech girl at all. I'm a people girl. I am not tech. And this opportunity popped up and I was like, maybe I can learn it. I think I can. And I built it. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. It's called Truth Scan AI. And if you go to just lenasisco.com, you can find everything about me. Now, my company has a website too, which is the congruencygroup.com. Lenasisco.com is a little easier and you can link it, but the Truth Scan AI is right there. And what it does is it conducts statement analysis. I call it sentence and word analysis because it looks at words and sentences of anything, text, emails, documents, conversations, and you upload it. And I have trained the AI in everything I know about truthful and deceptive verbal indicators inside that app. And it will do an analysis for you and give you a credibility assessment as well as everything it picks up on and as to why it's deceptive. Yeah, it took a minute, but I was like, I'm doing this. Yeah, and of course, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, but yeah, lenasisco.com is probably the best place.
My gut feel tells me you're going to get loads of screenshots of dating apps uploaded or something like that.
Well, it's funny because the book, right, and with TrueScan, my husband's colleagues, they're great. They're females. They said, Lena, you just created the best dating armor. I was like, yeah, didn't I?
I'm so gonna test it. Seriously. But Lena, thank you so much, not only for your generosity in time, and I know your doggies are hungry now, they must be for sure, but your fire, your passion, your insights, your pragmatism, I'm loving it. I am a Lena Sisco fan now, officially. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you. You just made my day. You made me feel really good.
And I'm always asking this question to the listeners, or it's a little bit of a request to you, because Lena has shared so much and so much insight and so many practical tips that you can literally pay attention to, can apply to your day-to-day life. And I'd really love to know which one landed the most. Where did you have a sort of light bulb moment, realizing I might be surrounded by a bit of a narcissist here? How are you dealing with it? Would be wonderful to know. Get in touch and let us learn together, and let us, and I look at Lena in particular here, let us figure out how to support you as well.
Absolutely. I would love that. And please feel free to reach out. You can Google my name and find ways to get in touch with me.
And we're going to publish it, obviously, as well. But I'm going to let you go, Lena. Thank you so much again. Thanks, everybody out there, for listening, and speak to you again very, very soon. Take good care. Bye.